Welcome to Linked Up, Breaking Boundaries in Education, a podcast that focuses on what is happening in education today, connecting everyone to the movers and shakers that are breaking boundaries in the education arena.
Welcome. This is Jerry and Jamie live from ISTE. So welcome. Thank you for joining. We have amazing guests today. We are hearing all of the top things that are happening. Jerry and I are stalking the sessions, but we have some people giving us the scoop. So we're psyched, aren't we?
Oh, we are so excited. And we have guests that are working in different levels of education, which I think makes the conversation even more interesting.
Yeah.
So before we get started, I'm going to ask our guests to introduce themselves and tell us what you do. And then we have some questions for you. So Avis, we'll start with you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Happy to be here. I'm Avis Williams. I'm the proud superintendent for NOLA Public Schools in New Orleans. Been there for about a year and served as superintendent of Selma, Alabama for 5 years before that. I'm also on the ASCD ISTE board, past president of the Legacy ASCD. And so super excited to be here and to dig into the conversation.
Yes.
Hi, Jose Perez, New York City Public Schools. I'll start my title with teacher first
Yeah.
and
love
deputy
that.
director of instructional and enterprise technology.
Yes.
Yes.
And once a teacher, always a teacher, right?
That's right.
It just
Yep.
never
True.
goes away.
And it's what matters, right?
Yep, Anthony
kids.
Casanovas, and also New York City Public Schools. And I, too, was a teacher for 14 years in the Bronx prior to joining the Division of Instructional Information Technology, which is where Jose and I are colleagues within New York Public Schools. Started doing that in 2018 and still doing teacher work, teacher training, student-facing projects. And I'm a EdTech program manager.
Oh, thank you. Well, we are
You guys
glad
busy.
to have all of you here today. Yesterday, they had a leadership conference, and I heard when it opened up on ISTE, it sold out in 2 hours.
I got on the waiting list and somehow I got in. Someone
Yes.
added me as their +1 and I loved it. I thought it was fantastic.
amazing.
It
I
really
love
was.
seeing a room full of folks
Yeah.
first thing in the morning on a Sunday.
It was.
Yes.
It was a long day
But
yesterday.
it also speaks to the need
Yeah. Yeah.
for this kind of conference.
Absolutely.
Of leadership.
Yep.
So when we're talking leadership, that's a broad topic. What were some of the topics and what did you speak to yesterday?
Yeah, so my main focus was on creating a positive digital culture.
I love that.
We know that technology is here to stay and it's ever evolving.
Yeah.
And we also know that it has an impact on culture. And
Right.
when we think about digital culture, I lean in on the word culture itself. Culture is culture, right? And we all know that culture eats strategy for breakfast every morning,
Yes,
right? And so when we think about this through the lens of what it means from a digital standpoint, then we just need to prioritize the same things that we prioritize with culture in general. So we're looking at making sure that our scholars understand what it means to be empathetic, and what it means to collaborate and to have a teamwork approach to how we use technology and how we engage with technology. And when I talk to my scholars, they really want to make sure that there's balance between the technology and human contact, right?
That was a big theme yesterday. I thought.
Because
Yes.
they don't want to be taught by a computer.
No.
Let's be real clear about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And even in a digital society, a one-to-one classroom or whatever the case may be, that human interaction is still necessary. And scholars will tell you that they want to make sure that they have that relationship and rapport with their classmates and their teachers.
Yes.
Yeah.
I heard a quote. Someone said, if we don't teach the students the technology will teach the students.
Yeah.
And so we have to dig in and get involved.
We really do.
And set
Help
those
facilitate that.
boundaries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
And one way to do that is giving the students an opportunity to use their voice.
Yes,
Really
that-
lifting up student voice. One of the things I oftentimes talk about from a leadership standpoint is when you're making decisions, you need to make sure you include people who are going to be impacted by the decisions,
Yes.
right? And so
Yes.
most of our decisions are going to have a direct impact on our students.
Yeah.
And so making sure that they have a voice as we're planning how we use technology, planning shifts that we may make in terms of technology, and then asking them, how do you feel about this? How has your experience been with this?
Right.
And they'll tell you, students
They
will
will.
absolutely give you the whole truth and nothing
Yeah.
but the truth as it relates to the impact that they feel and the experience that they're having with education.
It's not about teaching at the students, but instead teaching with them
Yep.
and learning with them,
That's right.
modeling
Yep.
that I don't know everything. Let's dig in and learn this
Yeah.
together. When I was teaching in the 90s, that's what we had to do. I mean,
Right.
things were kind of just starting, and it was really just working with them, saying, let's try to figure this out together.
Yeah.
And, I really tried back then too. And I think Tara said it yesterday. You work with Tara. She said it yesterday that they need to not be consumers, but producers. And I really
Yes.
tried to work hard at doing that. It's a lot of work, but when you take some of that burden off of yourself as the teacher and let the students be the
Yeah.
leaders in that learning, it really just makes it all click and makes it so much better.
And they
giving
can
that
do
option.
it.
They
They're
can do
super smart.
it.
They learn quickly. They're more agile than we
They
are.
can do it better than
They
we
can
are.
absolutely do it.
Agreed.
Right.
Agreed.
I'm a former school counselor. And so I think about all of this, and the technology is kind of out there, right? But what really matters still is the basic character, teaching them character, respect, responsibility,
Right.
and making sure that they are part of those discussions as well. So it's not as woo-woo out there.
Yeah.
It's just basic.
It's not new, right? It's just basic human
Yes.
decency.
There you go.
And which is something that, as educators, it's the core of every
Everything.
classroom, everything in regards to learning and
That's
teaching.
right.
You're introducing this new
Yeah.
paradigm. It's not new anymore.
Right.
Right.
This new paradigm into the classroom. It's technology that's so wide open. And you're right. If we're not teaching into those core basic human principles,
Yes.
the
Exactly.
technology is going to dictate how it's being used. And that's
Right.
when things become too dangerous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly
And
right.
I'd say, ironically, right, we're talking about things that fall under collaboration. Under
I was just going to
teamwork,
say that.
right?
Yes.
Working
Give him
together.
your mic.
Now, ironically, I'd say that a lot of school districts, I'm not going to speak just for New York City, we work in silos,
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
So
I think
we're-
most do.
right? We're
Yeah.
preaching collaboration and
Right.
teamwork,
Yeah.
But
Not
then-
practicing it.
but not practicing it exactly.
Yeah.
And I know that's something that we did big time with the project that we worked on. Not only did we sort of try to break down the silos, we worked with agencies outside of
Yeah.
public schools.
Oh, so let's just pump the brakes. We've got to know, what is this project?
Yeah.
Take it away.
Yeah.
Take it away.
So during the pandemic,
Yes.
Microsoft and the then titled New York City, the New York City Department of Education, now it's been changed to New York City Public Schools, was trying to figure out how to engage students because of the COVID closures, how students can engage together, how they can engage with their teachers in a virtual space. All the students at the time were giving devices through the Department of Education. So they all had devices at home. So the idea was let's create an event called Battle of the Boroughs.
Battle
and
of
they
the
would-
Boroughs.
And it was
Love it.
around a sustainability or climate change prompt based on the UN's sustainable
yes,
goals.
yes,
So it's a
yes.
project-based learning activity.
Right.
So that gave the students the opportunity per class to create a build based on a climate change sustainability idea around those standards. And it was great. Year one, countless of students trying to find ways to connect with each other and their classmates, their teachers, their school community created these builds. And at the end, a class or several classes were awarded first place prizes. Year two, it grew. We were still in COVID closure, and which is, it's so hard to believe that practically 2 years went by. And it became a little bit larger event, a little bit more of note. It ended up in ESPN as a recorded program, which you can still find today.
Well, we will look it up.
yeah.
Yes.
And during that time, myself, Tony, and other members of DIIT our IT division, had been meeting with the nine large school districts across the country to try to share best practices around, how technology was being used during the pandemic. What safeguards should we be preparing for when things went back to normal? At that time,
We thought
if
that
it
was
ever,
gonna happen,
yeah,
didn't we?
if it ever went back to normal,
It's a blessing in some ways.
and
Yeah.
there was I call her Saint Julie now, Julie Musgrove from Fresno. She mentioned like, we're doing a little esports, and that
Yeah.
called a pause on us. I'm like, well, how long has your school district been involved in esports? Tony and I are gamers by nature, and during the COVID lockdown, that's all I was doing, working and just playing, just to keep my sanity.
Right.
I said, well, it's been about 5 years. And we were taken aback. Here it is, New York City School District, 1 million plus kids, 78,000 staff members. And we've never even attempted an esports program.
Which, by the way, is up here at
In-
ISTE,
yeah, right above us.
Right
We're in the
above us.
shadow of the
Yeah.
esports.
We are.
So that became our obsession. Like, who we need to talk to? Julie. We need to talk to all the other school
We
districts.
can combine all
Yeah.
of our passions together.
And to be able to do this, and I mean, I'll keep it short, but we spent a good portion of our summer trying to think up like how we're going to do this, how we're going. Like we wanted to make this Battle of the Boroughs as an example of what is possible when you get all the right stakeholders together to truly service kids
yes, yes.
outside of the average that's happening in the classroom.
Right.
Yeah.
So that became the goal. And of course, how do we create an inclusive? I mean, New York City, it's every shape, every
Yes.
color,
Yeah.
Right.
every language. Each school is its own country.
Yeah.
It's a rich language. And
True.
so how do we make sure that this event is representative of our school district?
Yeah.
Because esports, if we have found, seems to have, it's kind of pigeonholed.
Yes.
There's definitely a lot of affluent
Yes.
folks and resources and players that are taking
Right.
advantage of that.
And,
It's sorry,
no, that's where student voice actually kicked in for us,
Yes.
right? So we started sort of surveying what was out there. There'd been a lot of pop-up sort of esports clubs,
Right.
right? Some of them were
Right.
student-driven, which was incredible.
Yeah.
And we started going to their events, right? Their scrimmages, their tournaments. We started meeting with those students and asking them questions like, tell us about everything that's happening here, right? Now, there was essentially, I'd say, two flavors, right? So we had sort of the traditional esports club, right? And now what the students were doing was amazing. The fact that they organized and they put this together.
during the pandemic,
Right.
on their own.
On their own.
Now-
that is amazing.
That is
Right.
amazing.
Now, the caveat there was exactly what Jose was saying, right? These were the affluent students. These were the
Oh,
specialized high schoolers.
gotcha.
You know, it was about 98% boys, right? And so
it
we're like,
wasn't
this,
inclusive.
it wasn't
Yeah.
inclusive. And this is New York City,
Yes.
right? And I said this earlier on the panel I was on, like, that really struck a nerve. I'm like, this is not representative.
Right. New York City. Yeah.
Right.
But we then also discovered there was a Minecraft club being run out of one of our schools. So we got to meet that teacher and speak with his students. And his students were predominantly young women of color. And we're like, okay, so what's happening here that's different?
Right.
And speaking to those students to learn, well, what is different here? You know,
Why
like,
are they not being served? Like, what is it about?
right,
What is it about what's happening in pockets that they're not interested
Right.
in joining? And
Yes.
that's actually a very similar problem
Yeah.
across other school districts that girls, especially girls of color, are missing.
Yeah.
the assumption is they don't game.
Right.
And they said, no, absolutely not. We game.
And we
But-
can beat you.
Right. Now the issue was a lot of this. The positive digital culture isn't established.
Yeah.
Oh.
Right. So they join, you know, they attempt it and they're bullied or they hear
Yes.
really disgusting language or
Yeah.
It's boys competing.
right.
Yes.
And they're like, you know what? we don't want to be in this
Right.
environment, right? The other thing was offering the opportunities, right? And I feel like this is something a lot of the esports vendors are preaching, but a lot of places aren't really practicing yet. So at that school, at that club, John Dewey High School, they've been featured a lot lately. Excellent work out there.
We've had Chris Aviles, you know, Chris
Yeah,
from Garden
from
Yes.
State
Garden State
Esports.
Esports.
He's
Yep.
been on our podcast
Yes.
twice, I think.
I was chatting it up with him
Yeah,
yesterday.
yeah.
The Minecraft club that was established at that school, something that the young women there were really excited about was like, we each have roles. Like, I'm the graphic designer, I'm the treasurer, I'm the VP
They
of
were
the club.
organized.
They were
I
organized,
love that.
and they were
Me
like,
too.
we're not just gaming, we're running this.
Yeah.
And what life skills?
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's all stuff that we heard that we brought into our events.
Gotcha.
So
That's good.
I love that you went out to the kids, and especially the kids that had been disenfranchised, and said, what is it you need in order to be part of this?
They needed to be at the table.
Yes, they
You know,
did.
They needed,
And you brought them up to the table.
and they had leaders that truly understood and empowered them and gave them the voice to be able to do that. And because of them, it shaped what we wanted to do for the city. And you know, in our partnership, our external partners with Microsoft, Minecraft, we have a very good relationship with Microsoft within the DOE, same as Google. So
Well, Yuritsa
Right.
has been, you know, Yuritsa,
Yes.
right?
Yes,
She's been on the podcast
yes.
several times,
So, excuse me. So we leaned on them. We were like, this is the idea. This is what we want to do. And there was, I mean, I don't mind saying there was a lot of, are you sure we can
Right.
do this? Like in person, it's one thing to do it virtual.
yeah.
Right.
Will there be an audience? Will people come? Will they do it? And there was one thing that we understood about the community within the DOE, the student community and the teacher. Give them all the tools, they will show up.
Absolutely.
They will show up.
Yeah.
And that's what we preached and we pushed and pushed, reaching out further into what Tony said about partnerships. You know, we reached out to our borough presidents for each borough, and then we got an excellent reception from them. We had to, you know, there was a lot of explaining of what it was. And we were leaning heavily on, like, you know, the ideas these kids are building solutions around sustainability and climate
Yes.
change within your borough.
Yeah.
You're going to
Real
want to
world
be a
progress.
you're going to want to be a
That's
part
good.
of this.
Yeah, that's good.
They totally got it.
Oh, that's so good.
And you know, in an off chance meeting, Tony happened to meet the mayor of New York City. They exchanged
Wow.
information. And
Yes.
and then we instantly put in a request, like we would
I can
love.
text him right now.
Yeah. Please do.
Get him on the podcast.
Yes.
We asked them, like, can you just write, you know, can you cut a video for us,
Yeah.
like an opening, like
Oh,
tasking the students of New York
beautiful.
City?
Yeah.
Yes.
Or gave us that, no problem.
That's great.
Yeah.
And then, well, since you're going to do that, why, you know, we're thinking about, and we have also, we developed an excellent relationship with the mayor's office for media and entertainment that goes out and I tries to identify and put on like real, you know, New York City engagement opportunities. And we spoke to the right person. She said, "Yeah, let's do. I think we can do an a citywide esport event. Let's see where it'll take us." And then June 10th, all of this to say, in June 10th
Of this year?
of
Yeah.
this year,
Oh.
we put
Just
on
a few weeks ago.
Oh my
the
gosh.
first official New York City sanctioned DOE, well, public school, New York City Public School, and city sanctioned esport event from students from K to 5 competing against each other, and 6 to 12. And an all-girls team from Staten Island won for K to 5. They were amazing. And of course, I called them like Jordan at their peak, Muhammad
Yeah,
Ali at their
yeah.
peak. John Dewey High School won.
So that same Minecraft club,
Yes.
you know, they were the team to beat.
They
and,
were.
Right.
and they
Gotcha.
won. And
And
they
they
won.
won.
And then in
Yeah.
each stop, when we did the borough-wide events, you know, across the qualifying events leading up to the finals,
Mhm.
we would say to the group that were in 6 to 12, the competing, I said, look, the team to beat is John Dewey High School. You may want to look them up on the internet because there's videos of their work. That Microsoft sent a video crew to spotlight the work that they're doing. And then, as I mentioned, since this was a project-based learning, is competition. It's a creative solution competition. There's video of them like knee deep in water, trying to figure out water conservation. Like they're actually doing in the physical world, and then taking what they've learned and going back to the classroom and redesigning solutions in Minecraft.
I love the fact that it was a community-wide event, and the community partnerships really speak to that, and especially when you start involving your elected officials and other business partners, because that's what we have to do in education. Because we can't do this in isolation.
That's right.
You know, there's so much that our scholars need, and we can't give it all to them, but we can give them access by having those partnerships. And that's how I look at equity: removing barriers and providing access. And I love that you lifted up the fact that the participants initially didn't look like New York City, right? And so what barriers do we need to remove so that we ensure that everybody truly has access? I love that.
And the barriers is something that we kept thinking about way in the beginning. This was all a ruse by Tony and I to create a model to show the New York City public, I keep saying the DOE, New York City Public School, and anyone that would listen, that we need to create a program that our students can tap into the billions of dollars in higher ed scholarships that are not going to anyone in New York City, because there aren't programs like that being run. While the rest of the country, again, has been doing this for 5+ years, and they're the ones that are, their students able to tap into that. Right? So that was our goal.
Well, is this program something that can be scaled?
Well, I mean, I think it is.
Yes.
And it's,
have you written a playbook?
Yes. In fact, coming to ISTE was part of the. We're going to make sure that we touch base with the folks that have been doing it for a while. Because it's going to inform the playbook, that the proposal that we want to provide New York City with. We kind of we really need to do this. I mean, and it's all part of the New York City mayor's plan for the digital gaming initiative that he launched. Was it?
Yeah, the
last summer.
Okay.
Bringing video game production houses from the west all the way to the east, and New York City and New York State is a perfect place for it. So that's the pull, and we just happen to stumble across this perfect opportunity to push an initiative like this.
And we know the students are out there, so it's we want to build the workforce, right? And in fact, again, back to the student voice and the students themselves at our main event. All the footage that was captured, student film crew. The shoutcaster commentator was a young woman of color. One of our colleagues' daughters. So the daughter of a teacher, also, a New York City public school student. So we just made sure.
So they had the key roles.
Exactly.
That's good.
Exactly.
Beautiful.
Right.
Dr. Williams, you have excitement from staff, from students coming to you in your district. You have a different vision sometimes. You got excited too.
Yeah.
But then what happens when you really look at some of the drawbacks, some of the, legal implications, or what do you do?
Yeah, and so that's where we really have to make sure we bring the legal team in, and especially as it relates to policies and updates that are necessary as technology continues to evolve. I think it's hard to go more than a couple of weeks without seeing something in the news around cybersecurity.
Yes.
And I know a lot of places have banned TikTok completely and are looking at other social media platforms, and just really getting an understanding of how it's going to impact our security overall. And so for us, it really is necessary to ensure that our legal team, as well as our HR department and anyone else that's working on policies, including working with my Board of Education, making sure that we are staying abreast of new technologies and the implications that they have on our current policies. I know AI is here, right?
Yes.
And I think one of the biggest things that we as the leaders, as the teachers, as the adults need to do is not be afraid.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, our scholars need us to show leadership in this space. And we can't do that if we're operating out of fear. And we certainly can't do it if we're not well researched and well versed on what these technologies are and how they interact with what we currently have in place as it relates to policies and procedures. And for policies, they have to be, broad enough to where you don't have to change them every time a new platform comes out, and then that's where your procedures can come in, where you get a little bit more specific in terms of how we're going to implement this policy. And so, that's something that we're looking closely at. And I was joking with a colleague. It's like, well, we'll just ask ChatGPT to write a policy for us. And it will. And it will.
We did do a session on that at the Voice for Equity.
We definitely talked about that a lot. That was part of the culminating activity to look at a policy and to use ChatGPT to write a policy and to develop a policy brief based on that.
It's a good starting point.
It is. And just knowing that you can nuance it from there. But as adults, we have to not be afraid of that. And we have to be ready and prepared to have those conversations with our scholars on how to do this safely. What does it look like to engage using this in a way that's safe? And again, are there policies and procedures that need to be concrete in order for us to do it safely?
And the thing that I worry about with people making policies and not allowing it in our schools, number one, putting our head in the sand has always worked, hasn't it?
Right. That's a strategy.
Yes, that's a strategy. But number two, I think it just exacerbates the digital divide.
It does.
Because kids will have it in their hands and at home. And we need to make sure we're teaching all students, not just a few.
And looking at it from an intergenerational standpoint, and I think that's a space that as educators, we really, really miss it because, we operate out of our lens. I'm Generation X, which is the best generation.
It is the best.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
I couldn't agree more.
Exactly. So, but
Say the only generation.
Right. So for years we were complaining about millennials, right? But millennials are old now. Okay, if you're listening and you're a millennial, you're old because we've got Gen Z now. And we've got to really get a better understanding of what it means to thrive based on the generation, based on your lifestyle, based on differences that we may not be able to relate to personally because we grew up differently.
Right. We are flexible. We are adaptable. I mean, think about it. We started teaching when the internet became.
Right. It used to make noises. Y'all remember that?
Yes.
Oh.
It would sound like it was in pain, like it was screaming out as it was
I'm gonna
connecting.
connect you, but it hurts.
I asked that. In 1993, I asked to have a phone line dropped into my classroom, and I had an America Online account. AOL account, and I had students actually compete in a virtual science forum with Washington State University here in New Jersey. In Maryland. I was teaching in Maryland then, and that was in 1993.
Right.
So I saw it coming. I saw it happening.
Yes.
And I just wanted to do it, and I had administration who supported me.
Yeah.
They saw my excitement. They saw the excitement of the students, and they supported me. They dropped that phone line in my classroom. They did whatever I needed to do to get it going.
That's good.
And the kids will never forget it.
Yeah.
And it got them on that right path to being courageous, to do different things. And yes.
Well, it has been such a pleasure to have you all here today and to hear about the project, the leadership, the policies. There's so much that's involved in all of this. And we have
different angles.
Yes, different angles. So thank you so much. What are you looking forward to here at ISTE?
It's the collaboration for me, just connecting with other leaders, the human connection. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's what I call it.
We're meeting a lot of folks that we have met plenty of times virtually.
Virtually, yeah.
And you're seeing them without the box.
Exactly. Yeah. So
This is my first ISTE. I've never
this
been
is
to
really
ISTE.
nice.
So it's something.
It's overwhelming at times.
Yeah.
Yes.
I felt like I went through the whole week just yesterday. I was totally exhausted. But I'm re-energized today. We
That's
got a
right.
couple more days left.
Yes, we do. Yes,
Thank
we
you
do.
for having us.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Great conversation.
It was a great conversation.
Likewise. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you for listening. And if you would like to stay linked up, be sure to follow us on Apple and Spotify and subscribe to us on YouTube.